2025. Yes, I know. I'm going to keep saying that all day in all the videos I post today. Did you know, fun fact, that Groundhog Day has a number of similar traditions and holidays in other locations? This is the quiz for the video. Leave a comment below if you know the names of any of the other similar traditions that celebrate some kind of animal predicting the weather and whether or not it's going to be a long winter or an early spring. What other traditions have sparked up about this time of year that celebrate this fun little tradition that originated in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania? Also, without Googling it, spell Punxsutawney. In fact, spell Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania in the comments below. That's my challenge to you. Which holidays have been created in the wake of the establishment and tradition of Groundhog Phil of Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania on Groundhog Day? And spell Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. Let's see how many of you can do that without Googling. And if you don't know it, guess. Just write your best guess. I want to see what you got. I'm almost more curious to see those of you who don't know and guess the names and or the spelling. Because if you know it, great. You know it. That's awesome. And points for you. And that's great. I want to see how many of you do know how to spell it, because it's not so obvious. But for those of you who don't know, I'm really curious what you're going to write. So anyway, on this Groundhog Day, some thoughts about long winters and early springs. Coming to you live from northern Israel, where a person, me, who has lived in Pennsylvania for multiple years of my life, I always thought that was a fun holiday. It wasn't like a day off of school holiday or anything. It was just a fun little tradition. Groundhog Day. When I first moved to Pennsylvania and heard about it, I thought, well, that's an interesting tradition. That's an interesting holiday. It's kind of cute that they have a little groundhog. And they call him a certain name, Phil. And they all gather around Gobbler's Knob, which is a hilarious name for a place in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. And they await his arrival as he climbs or walks out of the little tree stump that is his home while he is doing his ritualistic traditional walk out of the stump. And then he looks around underneath all the attention of all the people gathered there early in the morning, after they've already been there for hours carousing. And it's become quite a tradition with music. And, people perform there. It's like an event. And the people there love it. Most of the people there love it, especially the shop owners and things, because they get a little influx of tourists in the middle of winter that they otherwise might not get. And it's pretty cool. It's funny. And the question always arises every year, are his predictions correct or not? And the answer is always, well, it's somewhere around 50-50. May as well throw a dart at a board and see. Which is kind of a lot like trading, right? When you're trading, you're just if you don't know what you're doing. And if you're using like Voodoo TA, you may as well just throw a dart at a board and see, right? If it hits one area of the board, you're long. If it hits another area, you're short. And it's that simple. Of course, if you do know what you're doing, there are more scientific ways to go about it, more mathematically correct ways to go about it, right? Specifically, using leading information like the VEPs. But anyway, I will digress from that and just remind you that it is, in fact, February 2nd. My goodness, 2025. And here I am in northern Israel. And as we gaze upon these relatively calm fields, I can hear the roar of jet engines, of fighter jets flying not far from here. It's something you often hear in northern Israel. Whether there's a war or not, you hear fighter jets because it's a small country and the pilots train regularly. So they fly all the time. Sometimes you hear more than other times. But these days, so far we have a tenuous ceasefire up here in the north. And hopefully that tenuous ceasefire will last and transform itself into a longer lasting truce or whatever. It'd be great if there could be real peace, but I think anyone realistic realizes what I said at the beginning of this whole nonsense on October 7th, 2023, that this war will end differently than many people think. And that once again, the probabilities are that Israel won't be allowed by outside forces to have an outright victory and won't be allowed to force its belligerent nemesis to surrender unconditionally. Hello? Can you you can get a shout out to Scott. Hey, Scott. Thanks for chiming in. Last name, believe, starts with an F. What is that last name? Free, is it? Freeber? I don't know. I don't know how to read your last name. Sorry. Maybe I should get some glasses. The font on my screen is really small, smaller than usual. I don't know why. So it's hard for me to see the letters. Oh, Scott Foolery? Is that Scott Foolery? Hello, Scott Foolery. Shout out to you. I hope all is well and that you're having a great day. So, anyway, yeah, so meandering thoughts for you. So, fortunately, we have not had any complaints cylinders up here in the last couple of months. Fortunately, we've been now free of those complaint cylinders since end of October or early November, and hopefully we'll see a longer lasting peace, but it's going to be, I am doubtful of it. It's going to be highly improbable that we actually see a longer lasting peace for the very reasons I have pronounced many times on this channel. Politics in the Middle East is nothing if not complicated. So that's why it's unrealistic, unfortunately, to expect the outcome of this war to be different than the outcome of so many other wars we've had in this area, unfortunately, since like 1948 and even before. when they were not officially wars, but there was a lot of fighting going on. And since then, in 1948, we've had, well, the 1948-1949 War of Independence, the 1956 Suez Canal incident or campaign, right? The first war with the Palestinian resistance fighters, terrorists by any other name, right? The Fedayeen. The 1967 war, the Six-Day War, right? The War of Attrition, which was after the Six-Day War, and when there was a lot of shooting back and forth in the area of the Suez Canal. The 1973 Yom Kippur War, the 1982 invasion of South Lebanon to chase out the PLO because they were launching attacks against Israel. The first Gulf War in 1990, when Saddam Hussein was shooting rockets, Scud missiles at Israel. There was also the first Intifada before that. It started in 1987. It lasted a couple of years until 1989, 1990. It didn't really ever stop until 1992, 1993. By then, you had the Declaration of Principles between the PLO, or the Palestinian Authority, which is the political group it created to administer Areas A and mixed Areas B and Gaza. The Declaration of Principles between the Palestinians and Israel, signed at the White House lawn, followed by the attacks season or years of attacks shortly after the DOP was signed, when the DOP was being tested to its limits, and the Palestinians kept attacking Israel, and Israel kept retaliating. It was testing the limits of whether or not this thing would hold. The second Intifada, which started in September 2000, October 2000. The second Gulf War, which impacted Israel again. Right? The war with Iraq, that is. And of course, the second Intifada lasted until arguably 2005, even 2007. But 2005, when Israel decided to pull out of Gaza, and it did so in 2006, the unilateral disengagement of Gaza, followed by any number of wars with Hamas in Gaza. There's been no less than 4 of them already since 2006. And of course now the war that started on October the 7th, 2023 with Hamas, and October 8th started with Hezbollah and with the Houthis shortly thereafter, and Iran. Anyway, hopefully we'll see better and more peaceful days ahead, but the history, if it's any guide, this is an area of conflict on a regular basis. Anyway, peace. Happy Groundhog Day.